Hello. The topic of this video is autism spectrum disorder, and it's a topic that I could write and talk about for hours because of its complexity. In fact, one of the main focuses of my practice is working with high-functioning autistic children and teens in order to help them find ways to use their strengths and mitigate their challenges. I also work with parents to help create tailored strategies to make things easier at home and at school. Whether it's with me or somebody else, take advantage of the supports that you can find in the community. So to begin with, I'm going to try and share some powerful statistics that I found on the Autism Speaks website. The entire list of stats is on this blog page, and what I'm going to do quickly is just highlight the ones that I think are the most important. So in 2020, so this year, the CDC in the United States reported that approximately 1 in 54 children in the US is diagnosed with an autism spectrum disorder, according to 2016 data. 1 in 34 boys identified with autism, and 1 in 144 girls also identified with autism. So it's clear that boys are 4 times more likely to be diagnosed with autism than girls. Autism doesn't pick and choose. It affects all ethnic and socioeconomic groups, and early intervention affords the best opportunity to help support a healthy development and deliver benefits across the lifespan. The reason for this is when a person's growing, whether they're autistic or not, when you're younger, your brain is physically developing much more than it will at any other point in time in your life. If you can start interventions around social skills, around emotional regulation, executive function, all the things that we learn naturally as we get older and that are harder for people that are autistic, the earlier you can start on that work in terms of helping them develop, the better the chance and the more effective that intervention is going to be. I encourage you to read the rest of that webpage, the Autism Speaks webpage, as it contains a lot of great information. My perspective on ASD is actually quite simple. While an autistic person can have difficulties that other people may avoid, they are not broken people, and this is really important. They are not damaged. And in fact, they may even have ways of seeing things that are unique in just like amazing ways. Being autistic can mean having a unique perspective on the world and approaching problems differently than the so-called normal people. The technical term for normal, and I don't think anybody is normal, there's no such thing as normal, would be neurotypical. And in fact, many of the most successful people in history are believed to have been autistic. I'm sure you've heard of Bill Gates, who founded Microsoft. Steve Jobs founded Apple. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart was a composer. Jerry Seinfeld is a comedian. Nikola Tesla was an inventor, and Satoshi Tajiri created Pokemon. Women are also autistic. Susan Boyle is a British singer, and Dr. Temple Grandin is a famous animal scientist doctor who went public about her diagnosis. I would argue that if these amazing individuals were not autistic, so they were not on the autism spectrum, they probably would not have become successful in the way that they were. And this is because their brains are wired in a way that allowed them to soar and do things that others couldn't. If you Google famous autistic people, you will find many more examples of people that are believed to have been autistic throughout history. Autism spectrum disorder includes 3 conditions that in the past were diagnosed separately. There's autism, Asperger's, and PDD-NOS. PDD-NOS stands for Pervasive Developmental Disorder Not Otherwise Specified. And as I understand it, it was the diagnosis used when a person didn't fit into one of the other categories. To give you some sense of what these diagnoses are, Sheldon Cooper on the comedy The Big Bang Theory would be an example of an adult with Asperger's, and Rain Man from the 1988 movie would be an example of somebody in the past who was diagnosed with autism. Finding out that your child is autistic can be scary and overwhelming, and I would argue that while it is a challenge, and it can be a challenge, and it can be devastating, it's also best to know about it early on. Knowing your child is autistic can help target the supports that you will need and can also help you with funding. There are tax benefits that may be available to you when your child has an autistic diagnosis, and also available to them as they get older into adulthood. Make sure, if you're looking for a diagnosis, that you're seeing somebody who's actually trained to do this, and this is very important. There are very specific assessments that need to be done in order to get to the diagnosis and to make sure it's a correct diagnosis. Make sure as well that you get a sense of where on the autism spectrum your child scores. And remember, the autism spectrum diagnosis right now includes 3 conditions that were separate in the past. Because it encompasses those 3 different diagnoses, knowing where your child on the spectrum is critical to make sure that you get them the support that they need. Having an autistic child can be a challenge, It can also be extraordinarily rewarding, and autistic children can be a source of pleasure. If you have any questions, if you're looking for support, please reach out to me. This is one of the areas of my practice that is the most important to me, and I'm here to help. My number is 416-613-1259, and you can also reach me by email at kevin@hhcw.ca. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a good day.